fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto. Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Don Pedro's army has just returned home victorious after the war. Love is in the air, even as two of Shakespeare's most tumultuous couples exchange hilarious quips and damning accusations. Will the truth win in this mischievous game of love? Find out in End Station Theater Company at Randolph College's dazzling music-filled outdoor production of Much Ado About Nothing, running July 2nd through the 20th at Point of Honor. For tickets and information, visit endstationtheater.org.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
That's right. It is the Fast Lane, but without Ed Lane for the time being. Ed is currently on vacation to go see some family up in Oregon, but fret not to all the Ed Lane fans out there. He will return to the Fast Lane next week, but for now, he has entrusted me to take his baby for the next 3 days and bring you all the action, all the sports that you could possibly want for the next 3 days. Hello, everybody. I am TJ Wilkerson, usually just the co-host and producer for the Fast Lane, but I'll be, as I said, filling in for the next 3 days. And we've got quite a lot planned in these next 3 days for the next 3 shows. Today itself is jam-packed. We're going to have Lake Lewis Jr. of the Washington Commanders, the insider for that team, over in our backyard. He'll be joining the show today as the Commanders earlier today announced on social media they were bringing back the classic white burgundy attire for 3 home games. The Broncos on that Sunday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks, and then the final game of the year, that home game on Christmas Day against the Dallas Cowboys. He'll be touching on that and whether or not the name redacted that the Commanders once were known as, will it return? and the Terry McLaurin contract disputes, all that and a little bit more for the Washington Commanders. But then we go even further in our backyard. Way out in our backyard. If our backyard is an entire field, way out in the field, yonder towards the woods, is Baltimore, Maryland. And today we are headed to Baltimore, Maryland from the fast lane and picking up Carita Parks of Bowie TV and reporter for the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to get her insight as well as talk about the pressure that Lamar Jackson may be feeling as far as making it to the next level that the Ravens the last 2 years have been suited for, which is the Super Bowl, but they have fallen short. And she's going to tell us so far on what she has picked up from Lamar Jackson, on how he feels heading into the season as he's finally opened back up to the media, and how hot is John Harbaugh's seat? Is he feeling that pressure? Is the fan base impatient? What's the front office feeling like? And they've brought in a lot of great additions. I loved the Baltimore Ravens draft. Mike Green from the second round, and then the first round, Malachi Starks, the all-around safety that can do so much on the field for you. Complete steal for the Ravens. And then maybe we get to check up on for all the Virginia Tech fans listening to the Fastlane show, we'll get to check on a certain Virginia Tech player, well beloved on the defense from last year that got drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, Ainias Peebles. We'll see how he's doing over there. It's going to be a fun show. I'm glad to be filling in for Ed. I promise you, Ed, if you're listening to the show right now, I promise you I'm going to make you proud. You can call me, I guess, the Brian Weber, who has been filling in for Jim Rome the last couple of days. Last couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. Jim Rome's been on vacation. Call me Brian Weber, or Andrew Siciliano, who also guest hosted the Jim Rome show, as well as the Rich Eisen show for a couple of days a few weeks ago when Rich Eisen went off the air for a bit. And by the way, both of those shows, the Jim Rome show, the Rich Eisen show, you can listen to on the VTRN Sports app or 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, Lynchburg, or you can ask your smart speaker to open VTRN Sports. And we are currently in the threshold of sports as we speak. We have open period. Right now, we got Major League Baseball happening right now. For all our fans who may be Nationals fans out there, they just cleaned house, as we talked about on the Fast Lane on Monday when Ed was here, Ed and myself. Or if you're like me and you're the Braves fan, you just wonder, hey, are we going to sneak into the playoffs somehow? Because we got a great lineup that doesn't seem to remember how to play baseball outside of Acuna, who was just named to the All-Star lineup for the NL side. But it feels like that bullpen in itself has imploded. Or maybe you're a Yankees fan. Yankees seem to have a lot of fans down here in the region of Virginia. Some Baltimore Oriole fans as well. Red Sox fans and so forth. Baseball happening right now. NBA has just had their draft, and they're currently in the Summer League of all things. By the way, Cooper Flagg versus Bronny James. I am ecstatic for that matchup. ACC Player of the Year, Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall pick to the Dallas Mavericks, taking on the son of one of the GOATs of basketball, LeBron James, Mr. Bronny James, who is trying to prove to the world that he can succeed on his own without his father. And he's done really well. I feel like he's really improved. Outside of the night he had the other night, it didn't look too impressive, but defensively, he's looked amazing, and his shot making, shot creating has looked a lot better, as so to speak. We got media days for college football coming up, and we're going to touch on that tomorrow in the Fast Lane with Damian Sordelette talking about Virginia Tech. We'll have David Teal, who will also be at ACC Media Days, along with everyone's fan favorite Ed Lane and Ty Tracy, who will be headed there in a couple weeks. Right now, we got Big 12 Media Days happening right now. We're going to have a representative who was at the Big 12 Media Days, looking at a former Liberty player who is now with the Colorado Buffalo under Deion Sanders, Mr. Caden Salter. It's the page known as CF Budge, and he'll be joining the show tomorrow as well. SEC Media Days next week. Liberty and Conference USA, along with all the Power 5 conferences, will be taking place during the week of ACC Media Days, which starts July 22nd. College football, still in the offseason, but it's the part of the offseason where it is slowly creeping in. And if you're a football lover like I am, you're excited for this time of year, because media days, players coming out, coaches coming out, and giving out their thoughts, answering questions on what we can expect to see from their prospective teams, and how excited we get for those teams before they start to play their season. I know for our fellow listeners, for Liberty and Virginia Tech, pretty soon how the season starts will dictate the mood for the rest of that season. But now we're going to pivot over to the NFL because training camp is happening soon. A lot of teams are reporting to training camp as well on July 22nd, like the Ravens and Commanders, for example. And then with training camp starting, there's a lot going on. This is the time where contract disputes happen. Contract disputes everywhere happening right now. Currently, we'll have Terry McLaurin, the only offensive player contract dispute that has been very public as far as I know right now happening. We'll have Lake Lewis to jump on to that and how Commander fans, whether or not they should feel anxious on this extension or not. But if you're certain other teams out there, you look at the defensive side of things, whereas the rivals of the Washington Commanders, Dallas Cowboys right now, superstar Micah Parsons, and the Cowboys have not agreed to an extension at all or a new deal. And a couple weeks ago, beat reporter for the Cowboys, Clarence Hill Jr., spoke with Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons said himself, hey, Jerry Jones and I, we had a handshake deal that I was going to be paid a certain amount that would make me the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. But Jerry Jones never reached out to Micah's agent. That deal has not been put to pen and paper. There's some restlessness going on out there alongside the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been adding to their defensive arsenal with Jalen Ramsey, the new addition over there, giving up Minka Fitzpatrick. But then you look on the front lines, and there's the whole contract dispute with TJ Watt and how TJ Watt will come into the narrative of, hey, are we going to sign this guy or not? Are we going to see what the Cowboys are doing with Micah Parsons? Or are we going to give TJ Watt a deal higher than Myles Garrett, who had his big extension, 4-year, $160 million deal? And I think TJ Watt, who has been up there with Myles Garrett in terms of being up there for Defensive Player of the Year, being top 5 in sacks consistently, despite the injuries. TJ Watt saying to himself, hey, I feel like I should be getting a contract as well. I should get an extension. I should be paid Myles Garrett money. Steelers, let's talk for a second. And until we talk, I'm not going to appear on the field. You're not going to see me until we get a negotiation going. So the Steelers are dealing with that as well. You got to imagine the Cowboys and Steelers are eyeing each other while also eyeing other AFC North opponent of the Steelers, Ravens, and Browns. Cincinnati Bengals, I was always told defense wins championships, but the Bengals can't seem to retain defenders whatsoever. Now, look, I know they have a great offense. They have an amazing offense. Joe Burrow is your Tom Brady. Joe Burrow is definitely a top 4 quarterback in this league, in my opinion, and many other opinions out there. Joe Burrow should be your focal point. Jamar Chase, you definitely want to keep him around, one of the best receivers in the league. But the amount of money you've put into this man to hope that having him and Burrow stay together leads to a Super Bowl win finally. I mean, they were there at the promised land years back, only to lose out to the Rams. And since then, they haven't been able to either make the playoffs or sniff anything outside of the divisional round. You signed T. Higgins to an extension, and that's great and all, but then you go and sign Mike Gesicki to a deal as well, an extension there as well. More and more money going to your offense, but then you look at your defense. Look, I get it. Trey Hendrickson, like TJ Watt, is in his 30s. You kind of want to look for fresher talent, and then you drafted fresher talent, kind of like what the Kansas City Chiefs started doing defensively after getting their butt whooped in the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers led by Tom Brady back in 2020 COVID year. And the Bengals have the right approach, but now you can't even keep defenders, sign your rookies, because Shamar Stewart, your first round pick, saw how much guaranteed money he would actually be getting and what wasn't guaranteed. And now we're seeing college athletes transpire into the pros, realizing they have more leverage than they've ever had. Look, I got paid this much in college. Why am I not getting paid this much in the pros? If you've drafted me first round, I should be getting paid this much. So now your first round pick, second round pick have been sitting out. Second round pick, Demetrius Knight Jr., who's supposed to replace Jermaine Pratt, who left your team and joined the Oakland Raiders. He was your leading tackler, getting 100-plus tackles, which I get. You can get a guy that can give you 100-plus tackles easily, it feels like. Defenders, you can easily rotate in and out there, I guess, but it feels like defensively, the Bengals are not there. You average 30-plus points on offense, but you allow 30-plus points on defense. How do you expect to win games, man? Defense wins championships. Look at the Baltimore Ravens back in the 2000s, led by Trent Dilfer as their quarterback. Not the greatest offense in the world, but led by Hall of Famers Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. They got themselves a Super Bowl. Chicago Bears, when they had Rex Grossman as their quarterback, didn't have the greatest offense in the world there. But hey, that defense led by Brian Urlacher and many, many Hall of Fame assets got them to the Super Bowl, only to lose to the great Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. They came close. You want another example? LA Rams, who had a great balance of offense and defense that finally won them the Super Bowl, led by now retired defensive tackle, one of the greatest to ever do it, Aaron Donald. What are you doing, Cincinnati Bengals? I mean, I'm driving down the fast lane right now, and I'm still in awe. I'm still in shock a bit that maybe I'm over-exaggerating a bit. Maybe I'm swerving too much than I should be, but I feel like they're not taking the defensive aspect seriously. I feel like you're one or two pieces of defense away, especially you talk about the front side, but more so the back side, where you were at the bottom of the league, near the bottom of the league in passing defense, and you still haven't signed a defender. As far as Trey Hendrickson, okay, maybe you do let him go. Maybe you turn him into trade value, But how are you not signing your rookies, especially your first round pick? And why are negotiations at such a hostile standstill right now is beyond me. And I'm sure Carita Parks will give us some insight of that. The analyst for the Baltimore Ravens from Bowie TV, looking in to the rival of the Cincinnati Bengals on that side, as well as talking about what the Baltimore Ravens are going through on their side. Oh, man. Oh, man. But yeah, my middle school coach always told me defense wins championships, and it's been proven multiple times. Why do you think the Dallas Cowboys have struggled so much defensively to get further and further into the promised land? I mean, outside of choking, they have a good offense, but defensively, they're mostly mid. Unless Travion Diggs, who hopefully will come back healthier. Deron Bland finally coming back over there, so far to speak. So many teams, so many examples that we could go into here on the fast lane. But before we get off track, I feel like now's a great stopping point to head into commercial before we get off the road, which, by the way, if you do happen to get off the road on the fast lane, make sure you call Trost Law, because Trost Law can really help you if you get into an accident. They're experts at this, and they can give you the compensation that you need because they have decades of experience. Again, that's Trost Law. Call 434-777-HURT or visit trostlaw.com. They've been serving people for 4 decades, since 1982. When we come back in the fast lane, Lake Lewis Jr., Washington Insider, and reoccurring guest on the morning warm-up will be making his return to the fast lane. And we're excited to have him join in. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the fast lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM Lynchburg. Open the VTRN app when you ask that smart speaker to take you to VTRN Sports.
Pull up a seat and join our conversation. Around the Table with Vicki is my new local radio show and podcast discussing leadership, entrepreneurship, philanthropy, faith, and family.
What role would you say that innovation and adapting to change plays in your business strategy?
Oh my goodness, so much.
I think that's something we've learned through the last 5 years.
Well,
especially
honestly,
through COVID.
you've done a lot of that. I mean, as the younger generation brings Chat GTP and all these different things that you look at that brings, if you're not open to what technology is bringing, you just sort of die.
Well, that is something that you spearheaded not only in our family, but in our company, is that you've been telling us for 10 years, Mom, you've got to be able to adapt and change or your business stays stagnant and doesn't grow. And we've kind of listened to you about that. Whatever business that you're in, you better make sure that you've got a budget to be able to make those innovative changes along the way.
Stay in the front of that. You want to stay in front of technology. You got to embrace it. Or if you don't understand it, find somebody that does, because ultimately whoever embraces the innovation first wins.
Mm-hmm. And we love to be the one that wins.
Even the senior living world, I think the things that we've tried, we've always tried to be innovative and creative and doing something that if we go on a trip, we find something cool, we try to come back and bring that here.
Around the Table with Vicki, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on WIQO.
Few things are more majestic than nature, as long as it's outside your house. Unfortunately, when wildlife gets inside your chimney, it leads to problems for your chimney and your house. Prevent this problem with Black Goose Chimney Service. They provide one-time solutions to ensure the wildlife stays outside your home. And if you've had wildlife inside your house, Black Goose Chimney Service can deal with the aftermath and make sure they don't return. Call Black Goose Chimney Service and visit them at blackgoose.net.
Gorgeous blue waters, friendly people, the most beautiful island in the world. Getting to the Caribbean is hard, but experiencing it is easy at the Caribbean Jerk Pot. Oh yeah, come enjoy the best taste of the Caribbean with simples like jerk chicken and oxtail, authentic season, hot, mild, spicy as you like. You can order from 1 to 7 p.m. weekdays on DoorDash or Grubhub, or browse the full menu at CaribbeanJerkPot.com and call us to spice up your private event at 434-426-4047. We'll come and bring the Caribbean taste to you.
So this NCRadioDeals.com fast take was yay close to being recorded at my counselor's office. But my real upset part at how the NASCAR street race at Chicago ended Sunday has less to do with Ty Gibbs not getting a chance at a green-white checkered flag restart, because he probably would have been more likely to finish third as opposed to overtaking the dominant Shane Van Gisbergen. It's the fact that Cody Ware had a hard crash, and it took NASCAR over 30 seconds to throw the caution flag for something that looked as severe as it did and should have been addressed sooner.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTRN Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
And back in the fast lane with me at the driver's seat for Ed, while he is once again, as we said earlier, on vacation in Oregon. I'm TJ Wilkerson, and I picked up a passenger on the fast lane while driving down the highway. And it's a guy that has been covering the Commanders for a long time. You may know him from his socials, Lake Lewis Jr. on Twitter and Instagram. He's a regular on the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy every Tuesday morning that you can listen to from 7 to 8 a.m. on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m. Lynchburg, or you can ask your smart speaker to open VTRN Sports. And we've picked up Lake Lewis because the Commanders today announced that they are going back to these beautiful retro jerseys that I remember from when I was a kid. They're my brother's favorite. Shout out to Michael, my brother, by the way. Huge Commanders fan, as well as my mother and most of my family. And the Commanders have brought back the uniform from the days they were known as the name redacted, where they've got their nice white tops, the burgundy pants, a massive fan favorite. And about a month ago on the morning warm-up, which we just mentioned earlier, Mr. Lewis Jr. himself told Trey Lyle, our very own Trey Lyle, that these uniforms should be making a comeback. And lo and behold, the announcement was made official. And Lake, I don't know about you, man, but I personally love this attire in itself. And we get to see it 3 different times for Seattle, for Denver. Both of those are home games, as well as the third home game, the final game of the year. Good old-fashioned rivalry matchup between the Dallas Cowboys. From your personal take, what is your take on the uniforms itself, and how much of a fan service are the return of these uniforms?
Well, I think the sentiment that's going around right now, if you look at social media and the buzz on there, as far as the uniforms, people are happy and they feel the nostalgia. They understand that, this was an organization that was kind of, teetering on expansion, being an expansion team almost, because of the name change and just the whole rebranding. And then the product on the field wasn't the best. And then last year, obviously everything happened, new coaching staff, new ownership, and an owner that's from the area that understood the importance of what the Redskins were at the time. We all know about the name and the political climate we're in, and so therefore the name was changed. And they're not the only professional outfit to do that. You had, the Cleveland Indians change their name to the Cleveland Guardians. In college sports, the St. John's University in New York City, where we all knew was the St. John's Redmen. Well, they changed that to the Red Storm. So, and there's other teams out there that have done that. They've made some changes. So the Atlanta Braves got rid of the character of Homer Brave. So that's no longer their logo, So, it's not just Washington that's done that, but I think it hit home hardest because out of all those teams I named, Washington's the oldest out of all of them, and in a different sport, of course, So I think for fans to be able to see those uniforms, that brings back memories of winning and winning Super Bowls. Hence, they're called the Super Bowl era, alternate uniforms.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are excited about it, and I think it's pretty cool that you still keep the W on the helmet because that's their brand now, So now you just, as opposed to seeing the old Indian logo, you have the W on there, but everything else looks just like how it was when they were winning Super Bowls. And how cool is it to see Jaden Daniels in one of those uniforms and not this new makeshift Commanders uniform, but to see him in one of the uniforms that everyone, if you're, a fan of the burgundy and gold, can relate to.
You talk about the history and what the burgundy uniform means to a lot of fans. And as we mentioned, those burgundy uniforms went with the former name that the Commanders had. Do you believe we will ever see that former name return to Washington? You mentioned that the Commanders brand is more than likely here to stay. The owners have constantly said it, but when you have the return of these uniforms and everything around, like people saying, hey, I think we should go back to, the former name. Do you think the owners will ever cave in, or is the Commanders officially here to stay? No more former name.
No, I think there's no more former name. I think that's gone. It's buried. And, because you have to think about it. Let's just say, I know President Trump has been pushing for it as well to come back. And, said he would have never changed it. And that's music to the ears of a lot of people who feel that way as well. However, this is the problem. If you're Josh Harrison, you have all this goodwill now and everything's going well and your brand is winning with a franchise quarterback, by the way, in Jaden Daniels, who has one of the top 2 or 3 selling jerseys in all of football. Those are Commanders jerseys or the Commander brand. So you still get the best of both worlds because now you have a Commanders jersey that's like an old Redskins jersey, technically. You're still selling that as the Commanders brand. And it's a win-win for him now, you know. So I just think that the name is gone. And I think the fact that they're really bringing back a lot of the past, albeit except for the name, everything else is pretty much coming back. You know, you should feel pretty good about that if you're a fan.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the best of both worlds, and I think Commanders fans would probably get the best of both worlds even more. Sorry for the Hannah Montana reference there. With Terry McLaurin, you know, current contract dispute, I think he's the only NFL offensive player well known into his contract dispute. And usually around this time, we see these contract disputes happen where right before training camp or during most of the time of the offseason, no one can agree to a deal, neither party. And I think it's going to be the case. Me personally, I think it's going to be a case where it's probably a deal probably gets done either before or during training camp, because I don't see a world where Terry McLaurin departs personally. And I know the fans, though, they're feeling nervous, they're anxious, they're jittery. Like, why hasn't this extension happened? So forth. Like, what's your take on the current standoff of the contract dispute with Terry McLaurin, and when do you see a deal officially getting done?
Yeah, I definitely think a deal will be done. So I think everyone should be, you know, should not get too anxious or, you know, down on everything. It's business. This is what happens. And you know, I tell people this is a contract extension. This isn't a new contract. It'll be a new contract, but it's an extension. It's not, you know, just a fresh, like, free agent sign or draft and you've got to change the contract. Extensions are different. And normally those are for players of great magnitude for a respected team, you know, that they get those things done on the eve of training camp or right before training camp starts. I tell people the same thing was happening with Sam Cosmi last year. People were like, are they going to do anything? Or, you know, is he going to get an extension? Is he going to get a new contract? And sure enough, the first day of training camp, they bring Sam Cosmi into our media room to announce that he got his contract. So it's going to be the same thing with Terry. It's business now. You know, Terry wants what he feels like he's worth, and he should feel like that. The Commanders have to do what they feel like is best for the franchise, and they should feel like that. But I think both parties realize what's best for the franchise is for Terry McLaurin to be wearing these new alternate uniforms this year. I had someone reach out to me today, and, you know, they said to me, TJ, they were like, look, Terry's not in any of the pictures of the new uniform. I'm really worried. And I'm like, well, if he's not there, he can't take pictures in them. But it's going to happen. You're going to see him in that uniform this year. There's no circumstance that I can foresee Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris losing the goodwill that they have with the fan base right now. And you want to find out how you lose that goodwill? You don't re-sign Terry McLaurin and he goes somewhere else. This is the one guy that fans can say that they watched grow up wearing that uniform. They've seen him play in the dog days. And now that the resurgence is here, you want to see a player like that rewarded. And it also, something that a lot of people don't talk about that I think needs to be mentioned is everything that the new ownership group and new management and coaches have preached about the brotherhood and the type of players that they want to play in Washington. Terry McLaurin fits everything about that. And what kind of message would it be to send to the other players in the locker room that if you do everything right, meaning you do everything right on the field, you're producing at a high clip, you know, you're a difference maker, and then you're doing everything right off the field, not getting into trouble, but being a part of the community and doing great things, which Terry is. What would that say to other players in the locker room that you won't get paid what you're worth? If you're doing all the above things and you're still not getting paid. That's a bad ripple effect that could go through the locker room and break up all the harmony and everything that they have culturally going in their favor right now. So they're going to get things done with Terry McLaurin.
If Terry gets the contract extension he wants, how much do you think it will ripple the wide receiver market? More so, maybe now T. Higgins wants more money. He just got a little bit of an extension. Or I'm thinking of other receivers down the line, like Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens, for example. That comes to mind.
Well, I think what it would do, TJ, is you have to understand like this. You know, Terry's been doing this for like 5-6 years straight with only 1 year of having a Pro Bowl quarterback. Okay. So in fairness to Terry, you know, those other receivers have quarterbacks. Those other quarterbacks have MVP quarterbacks. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, they've been to a Super Bowl. You know, he's a multi-year Pro Bowler. You know, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, I mean, he's a 2-time MVP. You know, Terry's never had that until last year. And last year it was a rookie. I mean, Jaden Daniels had an epic rookie campaign, but still, nevertheless, he was a rookie. So I think that, you know, any of these guys who are arguing if Terry makes a certain amount of money that they should make that, they probably have to check their stats and check who they had throwing them the ball and wonder if Terry McLaurin replaced you, would your numbers be the same in Washington? So, and outside of that, who cares what those other receivers are going to ask for? Because for Commanders fans, as long as Terry's under contract, they could care less if he resets the market. They just want him in burgundy and gold.
Amen to that. Lake Lewis Jr., Washington Commanders insider, host of the Lake Lewis Jr. show, joining the Fast Lane. You talked about an article about the gauntlet of a schedule. I mean, Commanders got a tough schedule, the 8th toughest schedule in the league. They don't get a bye week till week 12. That's brutal in itself. The whole NFC East. I mean, if I don't feel bad for the Cowboys, Commanders, and Eagles, I certainly feel bad a little bit for the Giants because of they've got the number 1 toughest schedule. But we look at the Commanders. I mean, you've also got a lot of eyes on you. Can Jaden Daniels transgress even more in his sophomore year, or will he fall into the digression that happens with some second-year players in the NFL after having a stellar season? What is your take on the schedule itself, and how do you feel like the Commanders will handle all the eyes that are on them, as well as adjectives being thrown their way by haters like fluke and one-hit wonders?
Yeah, you know, they do have a tough schedule, but I've always said this around the NFL. Every team's schedule's tough because it's the NFL. They're all professionals. They all get paid. And if you sleep on a team on any given Sunday, you're going to lose. It's as simple as that. You know, there are great teams out there that find ways to lose to bad teams on occasion, you know, so it's just the nature of the business. But I think for Washington in particular, you know, their schedule is even tougher this year because of, you know, there's a fatigue index to it, you know, and, you know, I wrote this article about the NFL fatigue index that Sports Book Review actually did some stats on this, and it's really compelling, you know, and they reached out to me and I was like, yeah, I need to write something up on this, on the numbers and stats they were giving me. And, yeah, you know, so basically what this is it's a detailed evaluation of each team's rest schedule, you know, the travel that they have, the burden of that, and the internal body clock, you know, that disruption of a player from those travels. And the Commanders rank as the 5th most fatigued team in the league heading into this season, you know, so that's not good,
right?
You know, so basically to put this all in layman's terms, you know, you think of all the primetime games they have, okay? You think of the game that they're going to have in Madrid, Spain, you know, later in the year. And you think about the fact that they're not going to have a chance to have a bye after that. Normally when teams play overseas, they come back, they have a bye. Washington doesn't get that. Their bye doesn't come until week 12, you know, so it's late in the season. Mm-hmm. So for them, it means they have to go through 11 straight weeks of action all the cross-country flights, the body clock count, which it's a shock to the body from having to travel different time zones, things like that. It means that you're not able to come back home and get your proper rest. You may have one less day of practice because you've played a primetime game. So for fans, all those primetime games seem pretty cool. But to players, it's awesome that they're going to be on national television and be the sole game for people to watch. But they're also going to be doing that under more stressful conditions because their body may not be fully healed. One day of healing is a big deal for a professional athlete. So that's something that you have to take into consideration.
Blake, final question. It's a two-parter here. First off, how excited are you to head to Madrid, if you're headed to Madrid for the Commanders, watching them play their first international game ever in franchise history, number one? And number two, I asked Seawall this a few weeks ago, a game that you're excited to watch for. She said Commanders and Broncos, Seawall from Bowie TV, because of the Patrick Surtain versus Terry McLaurin. That matchup itself is going to be amazing. And then I look at Jedi Barron and Deebo Samuel. That's going to be fun to watch on the other side. But what game has you salivating, Lake, outside of the NFC East and any rivalries? What game has you salivating the most?
They've got a couple games on their schedule that are going to be good football games. The game in LA against the Chargers is going to be outstanding. The second week of the season, Thursday night game in Green Bay is going to be outstanding. But for me, I think the game that's going to have a lot of eyes on it's going to be the rematch against the Bears, because you're going to have, Jaden versus, the Bears, and the fact that he threw the Hail Mary against Caleb Williams last year to beat him, and Caleb Williams was the number one pick, Jaden was the number two pick. Then there's the whole Ben Johnson factor to it. Was he offered the job here or was he not offered the job? I'm telling you, he wasn't offered the job. But with that being said, Chicago's done a lot of work in the offseason to surround, Caleb Williams with an offensive line. They brought in multiple offensive linemen, 2 Pro Bowlers on top of that. Drafted, Luther Burden Jr., who I really liked out of Missouri, the wide receiver, to pair up with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. So they've got weapons there, and Cole Kmet, their tight end. So I just think that that's going to be a football game that could really tell you how far along the Commanders are, as well as the Bears. Are the Bears a legit playoff contender in the NFC North, a tough division? Will they take the next step? Will Caleb take the next step? And if you're the Commanders, that's a really good football game to show. Was last year's Hail Mary a fluke? Or, and I tell people all the time, Washington was beating Chicago soundly in every facet of that game, except for in the fourth quarter, where they let Chicago come back and ultimately take the lead before they had to win it on the Hail Mary. So I'm looking forward to that football game. The Denver game clearly is a great football game that I think is compelling in a lot of reasons. And then you have Bo Nix versus Jaden. There were some people out there who were a little punch drunk that thought that maybe Bo Nix should have been the rookie of the year last year. And that's just flat out lunacy if they thought that. But he did have a really good rookie campaign, but he still had the training wheels on him. So it'll be interesting to see if Sean Payton takes the training wheels off Bo and lets him go toe to toe with Jaden this year. So that's going to be a compelling matchup too.
That's Lake Lewis Jr., insider of the Washington Commanders, who joined the Fast Lane with us today, host of the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, which you can listen to on Radio 1. You can also check out the article he mentioned on Muck Rack, article called "Can Commanders Survive Grueling Fatigue-Filled 2025 Gauntlet?" And we look forward to looking Lake Lewis Jr. content as he follows Jaden Daniels, hopefully season 3 casted for the Netflix series Quarterbacks, and the Washington Commanders as they transgress. Lake, thank you for joining us today, man. And I hope you have a swell day. Be safe out there, man. It's storming like crazy.
I appreciate you having me on. And just real quick, just want to let everyone know that article is actually up on heavy.com. So that's where they can.
Okay, heavy.com.
Right.
That's my fault. Thank you so much, Lake.
Okay, take care now. I appreciate it.
You too, sir. Lake Lewis Jr., Washington Commanders insider. And when we come back, we're going to have a reporter / analyst For the Baltimore Ravens, it's Carita Parks. She'll be joining us here on the Fast Lane. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Fast Lane, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM Lynchburg. And ask that smart speaker to open VTRN Sports.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area. Plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing. And we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks. Just summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Your premier used car dealer. Locally owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
You're thinking, can our business afford executive maintenance? You should be thinking, can we afford not to use executive maintenance? They'll give your business the professional look that makes a good impression for your clients. That's what they do for us at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. From monthly office cleaning to pressure washing, strip seal and wax for tile floors, and construction cleanup, we trust executive maintenance to keep the Virginia Talk Radio Network sparkling. You should too. Put them to work for you. Visit executivemaintenancelynchburg.com and call them today.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting? Windows that are impossible to open and close and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
It's not too late to register for the Virginia Commonwealth Games at Liberty University and around Lynchburg. Athletes of any age or skill level can participate. Choose from over 35 sports, including tennis, softball, archery, and bowling. Win a gold, silver, or bronze medal, and join us for the opening ceremonies and tailgate party festivities. Register today online at commonwealthgames.org. That's commonwealthgames.org. It's the Virginia Commonwealth Games, brought to you by Kroger, Bedford Area Welcome Center and Tourism, and Campbell County Economic Development.
Hi, this is Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. You're listening to the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And welcome back again in the Fast Lane. Hope you are all staying dry in the Lynchburg area. Lord knows Lynchburg loves to rain, hence the name Drenchburg out there right now. Hope you guys are staying safe. We've had a great show so far. Shout out to Ed Lane once again for giving me the opportunity to host his show for the next 3 days. I feel like this first show has gone really well. Before we go any further with the show and bring on our next and final guest, Brenda, my lovely fiance out there, if you're listening, happy 1 year anniversary, hon. Can't wait to continue doing life with you. And hope you're doing well, hon. If you're tuning in right now, I'm sure she'll text me here in a second. But I just wanted to shout out my amazing fiance who's been so supportive in my sports journalism endeavors. And meanwhile, we're going to tune into someone who's also been taking into sports journalism endeavors, but for other reasons in the Fast Lane. Ladies and gentlemen, we have from Bowie TV Sports, from CEO of Double Take Sports, covers the Ravens, the Washington Mystics, the Washington Wizards. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to have on Miss Carita Parks. Carita, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm staying dry. That's for sure. Not for much longer when I leave the studio, but I'm staying dry. I'm having a good time. I hope you've had a great day so far.
So far, so good. I can't complain.
Thank you for joining the show, Miss Parks. We are slated for a great NFL season, I feel like, especially with the team that you cover NFL wise, the Baltimore Ravens. Look, it's going to be an interesting season. Facing off the Bills again, that whole rematch with the last year's AFC divisional round. Obviously, Kansas City Chiefs. A little bit of a rivalry, I feel like, between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson itself. Ninth toughest schedule in the NFL. From your perspective, when you look at this season and you talk about the pressure that the Ravens may be facing, especially maybe Lamar Jackson, who already has so many eyes on him, enough as it is. You've got John Harbaugh, who people are speculating is really on the hot seat, so to speak. And the Ravens organization itself, how much patience do you think the fan base, first off, has with this team if they don't make a Super Bowl this year?
Oh man, when you talk about the fans, I think the patience is definitely low. And for good reason, because the past 2 years, when they've been in position to make a Super Bowl push, they haven't been able to get over the hump. But in addition to that, they've had a roster in both cases that should have been able to get further. So I definitely think the fans are feeling like it has to happen this year.
Definitely so. I mean, you look at that roster, it seems loaded, especially with the addition of Jair Alexander, sorry. And
Mhm.
I mean, the defense itself, I'm excited to see that defense in action, especially I was talking about it earlier, the addition of Malachi Starks, one of my
Right.
favorite rookies coming into this season. You look at Roquan Smith, Kyle Van Noy, Kyle Hamilton, all
Mhm.
those guys on the defense. From a defensive side of things, what can we expect to see for the Ravens on that side of the ball from your perspective so far in rookie mini camp, training camp as a whole, or the mini training camp before the official
Mhm.
training camp?
It's a little hard to tell when you have rookie mini camp at OTAs, only because it's very light work. So we'll be able to get a better look at things in training camp. But I mean, Malachi Starks, he has looked good from from what I've been able to see of him. And overall, I expect the defense to start off faster than they did last year. They had a rough beginning, but also that was defensive coordinator Zach Orr's first year. So he got that first
Mhm.
year under his belt. And to his credit, that defense improved vastly over the last part of the season. So I expect for them to be able to keep that momentum going. They have Chuck Pagano back out of retirement coaching the secondary. So I am really interested in seeing how he's able to ignite them, because I mean that secondary is full of dogs. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that comes together. But I think the defense is positioned to start fast. They're always physical. And so Zach Orr, he's more comfortable. I think he still feels like he has something to prove. And I think we're going to see it come together better this season and quicker.
We have a massive Virginia Tech fan base here at Virginia Talk Radio Network Sports because we cover their football games and basketball games and a bunch of a bunch of other sports from Virginia Tech.
Mhm.
And a fan favorite from last year who was picked up by the Ravens, Anais Peebles. What have you
Mhm.
seen from him so far in the rookie mini camps and all that, heading into training camp? And do you feel like he's got a spot on this team, a role that we can see him try and fulfill and hopefully secure a spot with this roster? Having technical difficulties with Miss Carita Parks. We seem to have lost her. Hopefully, we'll soon get her back here in the moment. But
Oh, I'm
I mean,
here. I'm here. I don't know what happened.
okay, there
Yes.
you are. I'm sorry. It's a lot of
That's okay.
positive in the fast lane today. I mean, phones are out right now. It's been an interesting day, and I thank you for joining us on this bumpy ride. But the Anais Peoples, I don't know if you heard the question as far as Anais Peoples.
I did. So, basically, what I was saying is the Ravens, they drafted him for a reason. And last season, most of the draft picks, even if they were even later in the draft, they did have a spot on the roster. Now, whether or not they played, that was a completely different story. But the Ravens are about competing. And so if he competes and he shows that he's able to step up and someone else shows that they're not stepping up as much, there's always that possibility. I mean, this team is not about necessarily who's been there longer. It's about who's going to play. I mean, this is a team trying to get to the Super Bowl. And they're also about depth now. Not saying that he would necessarily be a starter per se, but like I said, this team is about depth, and there is a possibility he can make it to the depth chart.
There's definitely a lot of depth on this defense, and it seems they're able to maintain guys. Lost Patrick Queen last year, made up for it, and you got stars out there like Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith, who they've been able to retain too. What is it with the Ravens that can maintain so much talent defensively for the time being? Whereas you look at their rivals of the AFC North, I mean, you've seen the TJ Watt fiasco over there with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the Bengals and their fiasco when it comes to defensive players in general, including their first round draft pick. What are the Ravens doing differently that the Steelers and Bengals can't seem to follow?
I mean, the Ravens have a very solid reputation of being a professional team. They're known for their defense. I mean, all the way back to Ray Lewis and before that, the defense has been the pride of the Ravens team more than the offense. I mean, now the offense is, talked about more because you have Lamar Jackson, but the defense has always been the star of the Ravens team. And even Marlon Humphrey, he talks about how when he came on board with the Ravens, how there was a specific standard that defense had. And so he was a little disappointed last year with how the defense played out. But I say all that to say that everyone that comes to the Ravens, whether it's offense or defense, they always talk about the high caliber organization that the Ravens are and how professional they are. And especially if they come in on the defense, they always reference the history and the legacy of the Ravens defense. And so they're eager to come play for them. And also it's still a team that they know can make it to the Super Bowl. And every player in the NFL, like, that's what they want, to make it to the Super Bowl. And even though Lamar Jackson is on offense, he still is a main reason why a lot of people want to come play for the Ravens as well.
Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that is, oh man, I remember when the Ravens picked up Derrick Henry. I knew that backfield alone was going to be nearly impossible to stop.
Yeah.
It feels like Lamar Jackson, when you are the main star on your team, I mean, we've seen people like Josh Allen take heat as well. When you're the main star on the team and you lose, even if you've had a great game, but you got, let's say, your tight end Mark Andrews dropping a game-winning catch, a lot of the hate seems to go towards you, the quarterback. How do you feel like Lamar Jackson has handled the negativity mentally? Do you feel how has he felt since he came out for the first time since January last month and finally spoke to the media? How do you feel like mentally he appears?
Oh, he was in a very, very good mood, very good spirits. It seems like he got, he was refreshed over the off-season break that they had, and he was in a very good mood, and he talked about everything with no emotion behind it. The thing about Lamar is he's a very unselfish player. He was more upset about the hate and the talk around Mark Andrews because that's his guy.
Yeah.
And as far as how he reacted to the negativity, I mean, Lamar is harder on himself than anybody else is going to be. So I don't really think that he cares much about the fan noise. He is a competitor. He wants to win. So if anything, I think he was probably just more disappointed in himself because he always puts the team on his back.
Yeah.
So I think it was less about the fans and more about where he holds himself and the standard that he holds himself as a competitor. And he has some mistakes in that divisional game as well. So I don't think the fan discussion had much effect on him. But like I said, as a competitor, he doesn't like to lose. And he said that. He was like, he still holds on to when he lost games when he was young. So, yeah.
Carita C. Parks, CEO of Double Take Sports, reporter for the Ravens, Washington Mystics, the Washington Wizards. From Bowie TV Sports, she's a producer, and you can follow her, like I said, at Carita C. Parks on Twitter and on Instagram. Carita, before we let you go, before we take an exit from this show in the fast lane and finally put this whole ride onto park, I got to know, what matchup are you super stoked about this upcoming season? Outside of the AFC North, any rivalry, so to speak, what matchup has you salivating for when the season starts?
Gosh, I mean, it's probably game one. Ravens versus Bills. I know it's just the regular season, but that's where they finished in Buffalo last year. Heartbreaking loss. That's where they can start the season. And you want to start the season strong no matter who your first opponent is.
Yeah.
But seeing Josh Allen, and there hasn't been much change to the Bills roster, so they're probably going to be coming in pretty cohesive. You know, this is an opportunity for the Ravens to start the season strong and make a statement like they were trying to do last year with Kansas City in game one. So I'm looking forward to that because I think it'll tell us a lot about where the Ravens are coming out of the offseason.
And that's the truth. I'm excited for the Baltimore Ravens, and I can't wait to see how this season turns out for them. I mean, they're definitely one of the top teams in the AFC, and unlike some of their rivals, they know how to spread out those, as Kenny Powers would say.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carita Parks, reporter for the Baltimore Ravens. She's been kind enough to join us. Carita, thank you for coming in onto the fast lane. Sorry for the bumpy ride, but glad you could stay as we let you off the ride so you can continue on with the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Carita Parks, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for the fast lane. But hey, stay tuned. Tomorrow we got a loaded show, and Ty Tracy joins me tomorrow. All this and more. We got David Teal, Damian Sordelette, and CFB Budge from YouTube, right? All those guests and more, plus Ty Tracy will join me. It's going to be a fun show that you can tune into on 93.3 FM, 1320 AM Lynchburg, on the VTRN Sports app, or you can ask your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports. Now we're going to make our way to Make It Rain with Adam Shine.
Denver Nuggets fans hated that. By the way, you don't hear Kroenke talking he's not going to be talking into any cameras anytime soon unless he's saying that he's